You got to check this out. According to PGA.com, the odds of making a hole-in-one on a par 4 are 6 million to 1. The odds of me doing it, 6 million to 0. I could never do it. The odds are 0. But that did not stop former Haysi coaching legend James Colley. Colley aced the number 4 hole at Clear Creek Golf Course Sunday. He hit a driver. At first, he thought the ball went over the green, but then he looked in the hole.
Okay, we got James Colley. Just hit a hole-in-one, par 4 with a driver. Titleist 1, down in the hole.
You got it, baby. Ooh!
Colley is now retired. He lives in Abingdon, and obviously he takes his golf as seriously as he did football. Stacy Deal was his playing partner. Witnesses included John Murphy, Travis Stevenson, and Kayla Stevenson. Congratulations, Coach, on a great shot. Still to come, plenty of pedal power for the quest for a new world record at Bristol Motor Speedway. We're going to show you the results coming up. Plus, 2 more teams are in this week's Top 5 Tuesday rankings. Casey counts them down right after this.
Tennessee High is looking for a new boys basketball coach for the first time in 15 years after the Vikings announced the resignation of longtime head coach Roby Witcher. According to a release from the school, Witcher is stepping aside to spend more time with his family and focus on his administrative duties with the school. Brandon Broyles will serve as the interim head coach while the search for a new head coach takes place. After 1 week of the season, some teams look really good, others have some work to do, and some others are still waiting for their first game of the season. So let's take a look at this week's Top 5 Tuesday rankings. New to the poll this week is Sullivan Central. The Cougars beat Sullivan North 26-8 in their opener. Sullivan Central has their home opener Friday against Volunteer as they look for a 2-0 start. Number 4 is Cherokee. The Chiefs rolled 48-0 over Union County in their opener. How about this debut for new head coach Jason Lawson? His defense didn't allow a first down the entire game. Cherokee hosts Sullivan South on Friday night. You can watch that game on Fox 39. Number 3 is Greenville. The Green Devils did not play last week. Their first game of the season will be Friday night at home against Daniel Boone, and will be the first game of the Eddie Spradlin era for Greenville. Number 2 is Dobbins Bennett. The Indians beat Tennessee High 35-0 last week. This week they have a long road trip down to Oak Ridge to take on a Wildcats team that won their opener 40-0, so it should be a really good game Friday night in the Atomic City. And number 1 is Elizabethton. The defending Class 4A state champs beat Science Hill 30-8 for their 16th straight win. Elizabethton will look for their 17th win in a row Friday when they host Sullivan East. Week 2 of Friday Night Rivals quickly approaching. We'll be in Rogersville for Sullivan South and Cherokee. You can watch the game Friday night on Fox 39. Pregame show begins at 7. Kickoff is at 7:30. You can also watch the game on the WCYB Facebook page. From high school football to some semi-pro football we go. The Tennessee Outlaws preparing for a new season. They're a semi-pro team out of Kingsport that plays in the Alliance Football League. Teams from Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee make up the league that gives guys a chance to put on the helmet again after high school.
We have a lot of great athletes. They're their former high school stars. They're their former guys that get second and third chances at playing competitive football. It gives you an opportunity to get back on the field, and it also expands your area. Like if you want to try, I can send videos to ETSU, just major colleges to get their name out there.
The ETSU basketball team is going to look much different this season compared to last year. A whole new coaching staff except for Jason Shea, who's now the head coach. Only 2 players who saw meaningful minutes last year are back. One of them is local product Patrick Good, who says this team has potential, but there's plenty of work to be done.
We have so much individual talent, just getting everybody on the same page, chemistry-wise, and on the defensive end is very huge, and I feel like we're moving in that direction, obviously, getting to that point, and hopefully we can have us a season and be able to show the hard work that we put in so far.
That's a look at sports. We'll be right back.
Our weather over the next 10 days largely going to be focused on the weekend. That's going to be the biggest impact day across our region as we watch for some impact from Hurricane Laura with gusty winds and rain possible. Stay tuned for updates on that one as we get a little bit closer. Want to show you a couple cool pictures. These not as dramatic as a hurricane, but a cool shot here from Big Stone Gap. from Paul Miller. You can see the moon there and the sunset. And Connie Stilner sending this picture of some of the sun shining through the morning fog today in Abingdon. Just like this morning, I wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit more fog tomorrow morning. So break out the cameras if you see a little bit of that and submit your photos at wcyb.com/chime-in. There's our Facebook, there's our Twitter if you want to send it that way. And try to include a location and time you took the picture and a brief description if you send it to us on social media. Out the door forecast for Wednesday morning. Watch for some of that fog. Temperatures generally in the upper 60s to low 70s. Partly cloudy skies. A very nice day Wednesday, just a little on the humid side.
Ricky touched on this. Officials in Jefferson County, Texas, making an urgent plea for people to evacuate while they can just ahead of Hurricane Laura. That hurricane posing a growing threat through the whole southeast coast of Texas. Rosie DeLaffey from our Sinclair station there reports on the warning and why some aren't heeding the call.
Jefferson County Judge Jeff Brannick is urging residents to heed evacuation orders.
This is forecast to be a very significant storm.
Strong winds from a potential Category 3 hurricane can cause significant loss of life and damage.
With the significance of the storm surge, they're forecasting that almost half of Jefferson County is going to be covered in water at the southern edges, and most of Orange County will be covered in water. So
Judge Brannick says those who choose to stay are putting themselves and first responders in danger.
We've had times when winds were extremely high and individuals called for help, and we were not in a position to put our first responders at risk.
Brannick says emergency crews will be on high alert, but if you need help, it may come too late.
Help will come when conditions allow it to come, but it's going to have to be done in a situation where it's safe for the first responders.
But for Beaumont resident and essential worker James Rode, riding out the storm is nothing new.
This isn't the first one that I've gone through. Pretty well know what to do, got everything for it, so.
Rhodes is one of the many residents who picked up plenty of wood to board up windows on his home. He says just because he's staying doesn't mean he's not preparing.
You need to have a plan for how you're going to get out, because odds are, with how treed our area is, that roads are going to be inaccessible.
Others, like Ram Lara, say they're holding on to their faith.
I leave it in God's hands. You got to have some faith, you know, and pray a little bit.
To help them carry through the uncertainty.
With the threat of those two hurricanes bearing down on the Gulf Coast, volunteers across the U.S., including here in Northeast Tennessee, have been deployed to help those affected. We're talking about the American Red Cross volunteers. 3 people have traveled to that area, and a 4th volunteer has deployed virtually, helping with logistics from home. When volunteers deploy, they have to make a 2-week commitment. The pandemic has made relief efforts more difficult, and of course, new precautions have to be taken because of the virus.
I think now more than ever, it is so important that we have our plan in place, that we have the people that we need, and that we're able to respond to these types of disasters.
The organization says it's in need of volunteers, and if you'd like to volunteer or make a donation, you can find a link on our website to the Red Cross organization. A national cycling endurance champion attempted a world record this morning on the banks of Bristol Motor Speedway. Mark Pollard pedaled 128 laps around the track. He aimed to break the 100-kilometer cycling record for someone older than the age of 50. Poland says he wanted to participate following the cancellation of so many events because of the pandemic.
I just couldn't keep that motivation and that momentum going without a goal and kind of finish line to focus on. So I looked at my condition and what I thought was my optimal event, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to take that optimal event and push it as far as I can and see if I can get the world record.
How about that? He accomplished 128 laps in 2 hours and 31 minutes and 41 seconds to unofficially break the time ride record for age 60 plus. But he came up short for the record for age 50 and up, a little less than 2.5 hours. In sports, they tell you that practice makes perfect, and that's why Johnson City has put in a top-flight training facility for their golfers at Pine Oaks. They started the project when it closed Buffalo Valley 3 years ago. Now, Pine Oaks has a new driving range and, more importantly, a short game training area.
The biggest expenses were just getting the cart for the picker and everything. The range balls themselves are initial big costs and stuff like that. And the mats, you know, we wanted to get a top quality mat to provide to the people that come out and hit. And I think we've got a good product and a good price range.
So you got 4 acres now to practice every possible scenario, so you can work on all the clubs in your golf bag now at Pine Oaks. Healing Hands is a nonprofit in Bristol that provides health care to people that don't have insurance or can't afford it. It provides both medical and dental services to thousands in the community, and they rely in part on donors. Because of the pandemic, it's turning a yearly fundraising gala into a virtual event. This will happen Thursday night with hopes of raising as much as 15% of the funding they need.
We've helped almost 14,000 people in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia who don't have medical or dental insurance.
They truly are a great organization that does a lot of good. The fundraiser will include both silent and live auctions. Still to come, a police shooting in Wisconsin prompting 2 straight nights of violence, protests. Details when Fox 39 News at 10 continues.
I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at a new mandate from the White House on investing in distressed communities. The details coming up.
Storm Track 5 weather cameras sponsored by your Tri-Cities Ashley Home Store.
There's a new initiative to encourage private investment in low-income areas. It's the latest executive order from President Trump, requiring federal agencies to prioritize disadvantaged communities when opening up or relocating offices. Sinclair national correspondent Christine Frizzell brings us more details.
Part of the 2017 tax law, the goal of the Opportunity Zones program has been to encourage private investment in distressed communities.
Wealthy people and companies are pouring money into poor neighborhoods or areas that haven't seen investment in many decades, creating jobs, energy, and excitement.
President Trump now adding a new layer with an executive order requiring federal agencies to give preference to the 8,800 opportunity zones around the country for when relocating or building new offices and facilities.
Basically, the president wants to make sure that we prioritize the opportunity zones instead of just looking for the business districts.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott helped create the program.
This initiative that the president and I worked together on is now bringing more than $75 billion of private sector investment into distressed communities.
Opportunity zones have also garnered quite a bit of criticism, from the lack of reporting requirements and oversight of the program to the idea that it gives big tax breaks to already wealthy Americans.
A lot of the tax breaks are going to end up going to existing buildings or investments, or to investments that would have materialized anyway.
Other critics call it a gentrification subsidy, pushing low-income people out of their neighborhoods.
It encourages high financial return investments in opportunity zones. For example, a luxury real estate development will get a much bigger tax benefit than an affordable housing development.
Presidential candidate Joe Biden has called for changes to the program, including more oversight to make sure communities are actually benefiting. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Still ahead, with those tropical storms headed for the Gulf Coast, we're going to look at the possible effect on gas prices. Plus, new concerns about after a man in Hong Kong becomes reinfected with the coronavirus. We'll break down the implications next on Fox 39 News at 10. It's the second night of the Republican National Convention, and one of the biggest things to come out of the night so far, President Trump pardoning a convicted bank robber who's now helping former inmates. Tonight's speakers included First Lady Melania Trump, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and other Republican leaders. And some didn't hold back in their attacks against Joe Biden.
Compare President Trump with the disastrous record of Joe Biden, who has consistently called for more war. Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War, which President Trump has long called the worst geopolitical mistake of our generation.
Our economic choice is very clear. Do you want economic health, prosperity, opportunity, and optimism? Or do you want to turn back to the dark days of stagnation, recession, and pessimism?
Now, Wednesday night, the speakers will include Vice President Mike Pence, Second Lady Karen Pence, and White House advisor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. A second night of violent protests in the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin, prompted by the latest controversial shooting of an unarmed black man. Fox News chief correspondent Jonathan Hunt has details on the unrest.
Weary residents of Kenosha, Wisconsin, gearing up for what's expected to be another night of violent protest here. For the past 2 nights, police have clashed with demonstrators following the release of a video showing police shooting this man, 29-year-old Jacob Blake, in the back 7 times as he attempted to enter his car. The Blake family now planning legal action against the officers involved, claiming there was no justification for the shooting.
We have to bring a civil lawsuit. One is, of course, to hold the wrongdoers accountable for this injustice. The second is to get Jacob the resources that he will need.
Police say they're still investigating the incident, but claim the video doesn't tell the whole story. At least one person on the scene heard police shout, "Drop the knife," though it's unclear if Blake was armed. Local and federal officials are asking for time and patience so they can determine what really happened.
Let's be patient for all the facts to come out so that we make a strong and clear determination with all the facts. This is a hard thing to ask in this country today.
But protesters say they'll continue demonstrating, keeping up the pressure until they see real change. Blake's family thanking the community for its support, but also asking to keep the protest peaceful.
I can feel you guys' anger and pain. I definitely can, but let's just try to keep the city, quiet.
Jacob Blake's father said Tuesday his son is now paralyzed from the waist down. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
A group of protesters walking from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C. say someone shot at them in Bedford County, Pennsylvania. State police say there was an argument between a resident and a group of people, and that's what resulted in the gunfire. Frank Nitti, the organizer of the group, says they were walking peacefully down Lincoln Highway when it happened. Nitti says they started their walk to D.C. to create change after the death of George Floyd. He says the group started out small, but now it's turned into a group of nearly 50 people.
We've been spit on, had boots thrown at us, we've had food thrown at us, we've had guns flashed in our faces, and today we got shot for walking down the street.
As some states and cities are making strides to return to normal, several others are pulling the plug on reopening after an uptick in coronavirus cases. Fox News correspondent David Lee Miller has the latest.
The Miami Dolphins announcing they'll allow up to 13,000 socially distancing fans in the stadium for their home opener on September 20th. This as the state sees a one-day spike in cases with more than 2,600 confirmed in 24 hours.
If you're fearful of catching this virus, then you stay home.
But while Miami is taking steps forward, Tuscaloosa, Alabama is in reverse. City officials deciding to close all bars for 2 weeks, hoping to stop a recent uptick in cases since students returned to the University of Alabama campus.
Will these measures, combined with UA's efforts, ensure success? The truth is we don't know. However, the failure to do nothing will cost more lives and livelihoods.
While decisions about how to handle the pandemic are being made around the country, new concerns are emerging after a 33-year-old man in Hong Kong became reinfected with COVID-19. WHO officials trying to ease anxiety, saying it's not typical.
The numbers are very, very small. So this is one documented case in over 23 million.
And just days after the FDA authorized emergency use of convalescent plasma to treat COVID patients, claiming 35 out of 100 who used the treatment would survive, head of the FDA, Stephen Hahn, walking back on the claim following backlash from many scientists. tweeting in part, quote, "The criticism is entirely justified. What I should have said better is that the data shows a relative risk, not an absolute risk reduction." As the race for a vaccine heats up, Dr. Anthony Fauci is warning about premature emergency use before widespread testing can be completed. In New York, David Lee Miller, Fox News.
As a hurricane threatens the Gulf Coast, we'll have a look at the potential impact it could have on our gas pumps. Just ahead on Fox 39 News at 10. With a hurricane threatening the Gulf Coast, will the damage the storm caused affect the price you pay for gas at the pumps? Mandy Gaither has more details in tonight's Fox Focus.
Groceries and gas.
Gassed up my car first. That was the first thing I did.
Those potentially in the path of Laura and Marco are getting prepared.
Long lines, but needed the gas, want to be prepared.
Average gas prices at the pump are only up 1 cent from a week ago, standing at $2.19 for a gallon of regular, according to AAA. Typically, tropical storms would send those prices soaring, but a record U.S. oil production, combined with a sharp drop in demand for fuel during the COVID-19 pandemic, has resulted in a record excess supply. Tom Clausa, chief oil analyst for the Oil Price Information Service, says in terms of crude oil, the U.S. has never been in better shape. He says past storms like Hurricane Harvey, which hit the refinery base in Texas hard in 2017, resulted in spikes in gasoline and oil prices. But those storms came at times of high demand and much more limited supplies. Even with half of the offshore oil industry shuttered in advance of the storms, oil and gasoline future markets are not showing much movement, according to government figures.
All right, late tonight, a chance for a passing shower as we go into the next few hours here, mainly across parts of Southwest Virginia. Otherwise, pretty nice day tomorrow. We're going to start off generally around 70 degrees, heading up into the mid to upper 80s tomorrow afternoon. Good amount of sunshine. The only downside to this is that the humidity is also going to go up, so it'll feel a little stickier outside, feel a little muggier, and also feel a little hotter as a result of that. Now, Thursday into Friday, a couple chances for some pop-up showers and storms with a better chance for rain Saturday and into Saturday night as the remnants of Hurricane Laura head towards our region. PJ will keep you updated on that.
All right, Ricky, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us tonight. Remember, you can get your news anytime at WCYB.com. And our news continues on our sister station, News 5 WCYB.